That alone, verse number 56. Like waves arising in the ocean, bodies one by one suddenly arise, then merge again. Alas, where is the end to this? In the primal ocean of consciousness, potent action is said to exist. Commentary. The analogy of the ocean and the wave is a poetic allegory and a very intriguing simile. Why doesn't the ocean remain without any waves? We can't see any reason why it should have waves, but somehow it is very restless. What makes it restless, we don't know, but it is ceaselessly moving. From all sides we see waves rising up. If you fly over the ocean in an airplane, you can see so many waves appearing and disappearing for no apparent reason. You might ask yourself, is there anything really happening in the ocean? You can answer yes. And what is it? New waves are coming all the time. But you can also say that nothing is happening. Whatever water is there remains the same. Waves may peak and subside, but nothing happens to the water itself. The ocean is essentially changeless. Which perspective is true? They both are. The fact that waves arise and remerge is true, and the fact that the ocean never changes, that it is the eternal ocean, is also true. So, what do we really have here? What is the whole question about if we lift the poetry out of it? It boils down to two logical terms, the universal and the particular. We exist here pondering over the many particulars that appear within the universal. What causes the particular to emerge from the universal? We do not know, ever shifting our attention from the visualizable example of the ocean and its waves to abstract calculables does not make the problem less difficult. Our inability to grasp how the universal is always changing into the particular, and how the particular cannot find its place anywhere other than the universal, persists. Logically, you can say the seeming wave, when examined carefully, is it not only a change in the surface shape of the water? Certainly, the surface could be flat, but it is undulating. The undulation of the surface is what we call waves. And how do we know this is happening? Our eyes see it. Undulation is an effect we see with our eyes, and we imbue it with a personality as if it is a separate entity. Its existence is merely appearance. So let us now at least get rid of one false notion. The wave is an appearance, and the ocean alone is real. I think most of us will agree to that. However, there is a far more interesting problem which affects all people. How can you be sure that the ocean is not an appearance also? It is certainly true that the waves are only apparent. But does that make it true that the ocean is not an appearance? What constitutes water? Very tiny molecules which we cannot even see. If you look beyond water molecules, then none of the characteristics attributed to a specific form of matter can be found. So the very substance out of which water is created is imponderable. Only because of the massiveness of the ocean are you impressed. But what is that massiveness? Where does it come from? It is all built up out of something infinitesimal. The very finitude of it is beyond the grasp of our imagination. If that is the primary cause, the ocean that you see is a much greater hallucination than just seeing a wave there. One is a causal fallacy, and the other is a consequential fallacy. The consequential fallacy is seen in the causal fallacy. Which is better? Neither of these is good. If you are seeking to go beyond fallacies, you should reject them both forthwith. But you find you cannot. Why is that? One of the reasons is that you are affected by them. You are part of the same game. It doesn't matter whether we are speaking of water or skin and bones. Ultimately, the categories are simply the universal and the particular. And why is all this happening? Because things exist. It is only in the world of existence that we have this problem. Buddhists say there is nothing called existence other than action, and nothing called action other than existence. Existence and action to them are interchangeable concepts. Vedantins here agree with the Buddhists in saying that all this is action. Something exists because it has a functional efficiency. What is the functional efficiency of, say, this piece of tissue? It holds itself out as a thin paper-like substance. Each molecule of it is trying hard to keep its cohesion with the next molecule. So it's not a dead substance. It's trying hard not to perish, to keep up its substantiality. I'm using the tissue because it is very soft. The softness is my idea of its quality. Moreover, it looks pretty clean, with no stains on it. It is again my idea that this is clean. But with another kind of eye, a physicist's eye, perhaps, I might see that this is a gigantic colony of bacteria, with each one preparing to pounce upon me and cause all kinds of diseases. Then I should throw it away and wash my hands 100 times with antiseptic, imagining that in the antiseptic there are some sworn enemies of these disease biotics which will kill them. On the mouthwash bottle it is written, "Kills germs by millions on contact." Do we see the millions? Do we see the big fight going on, the murdering, and then all the corpses of the bacteria lying dead on the battlefield?
No, we don't see any of these things. We pretend, and yet it is all scientific truth. In the Tao of Physics, Fritjof Capra said that when he sat by the edge of the sea and looked out over the water, he saw cascades of energy showering down on him from outer space, and everything on Earth spewing its energy back into space. Subatomic particles were shattering each other and creating new ones. He saw all these things happening around him on all sides, even in his own body. He had to be lifted out of the mirage of seeing with his physical eye to seeing with the physicist's eye. He felt that he saw and he heard. And what did he see and hear? He was not seeing what we normally see. He was seeing great sheets of energy coming from various cosmic bodies, bombarding the earth and the earth transforming under the bombardment. Then he cried. What made a poor physicist cry? Someone might think he was very sentimental. However, his sentiment is not born of any of the emotions we know in our social life, but by the enormity of this mysterious thing which he could not fix as being of matter or mind. He did not know where to say, this part is mind and this other part is matter. I had the greatest revelation this morning. Fantastic. We recently purchased a very big encyclopedia of science, so I decided to come to you well informed about matter. I took down that big volume and looked for matter. That word has been removed from it. It is no longer a scientifically definable term. So that gave me great courage today to face all of you. Narayana Guru says in this verse that from the ocean of Samvit there arises body after body. You can look at it from outside and also from inside. Henri Bergson speaks of going around a thing and seeing it. When you do that, certainly one person is different from another. There are so many individual variations and differences between bodies. But you don't see your great-great-grandfather here with his characteristics. Where has he gone? And if we gather together again in a few years, instead of the baby who is with us now, we might have some other friend's child. Where is that child now? Lying hidden here in the Samvit ocean, looking for an opportunity to come up. The baby who is sitting here now was not here last year. All these little waves are sitting in the Samvit ocean, waiting for the proper conjunction of egg and sperm in the womb of some woman. Each child waits there for a long time as a possibility, a potentiality. But when it becomes an 8-pound actuality, it is no longer an idea. Now it has mass, or as we used to say, it is made up of matter. It has become tangible. We have to combine these two elements, the world of ideas and the world of actuality. Some of our philosophers are responsible for perpetuating the nonsense that there are two separate things called matter and mind. We often put Descartes in the witness box because he was partly responsible for this terrible misunderstanding. Phenomenologists come and say that first you should suspend judgment on whatever is presented before you. What I see before me now is a complex of people, made up of various ideas plus names and forms. The next step is to look for the substantiality of it. I reduce all of you to a single category, that of the perceived object. When the perceived object is one confection, there are no separate persons. All become the object of my vision. Then I question the distinction between subject and object. How much of the object is in the subject, and how much of the subject is in the object. Finally, once I reduce everything, I am forced to drop many things as inconsequential. Ultimately arrive at the non-dual entity, absolute being. Absolute being has no beard, no male or female differentiation, no inside or outside. It has no needs. It cannot be touched. It cannot be known. It is pure absolute. To properly explicate this verse, I would need at least 7 or 8 years. I would have to tell you all that Dignaga, Dharmakirti, Asanga and Vasubandhu thought about it. There are others too. Many wise men and women have broken their heads on this, But the Guru puts it in a very simple way. We need a fire here in the morning. Without it, we wouldn't be able to sit together during the cold winter season. That is a fact. The factual world should find a place in existence. But the possibility of arriving at an absolute should also be there. If you can combine these two into one total vision, it is called Sambit. Is Sambit cosmic consciousness? Yes. Is Sambit matter? Yes. Is Sambit pure absolute? Yes. Is it God? Yes. Is it the devil? Yes. What is it not? Is and is not are both Sambit. It is dynamic, and in that dynamism, innumerable possibilities are happening. Out of the ocean of Sambit, two possibilities emerge that are of general importance. One is the mind that perceives, and the other is what is perceived. One is not the cause of the other. Both are only consequential factors. It is not that the ocean is more real than the wave. The water and its agitations are both products of a total action situation. We human beings have a number of prejudices. The questions that arise in our minds as to who is the actor and what is the action are only our prejudices. We think there needs to be an actor who should have a purpose for action, a preparation for it, and an instrument to carry it out. Who then performs the action? This is strictly anthropomorphism. Many of you think that there is a God sitting in the heavens, somewhere, complete with beard and arms and legs, who will gently touch your head and bestow his blessings upon you. Such images are born of your love for your grandfather. If you didn't have a benevolent grandfather, you wouldn't think of a godfather who is sitting there, patting you on the head. It is purely anthropomorphic, a very childish way of looking at it. At the same time, it is very beautiful and sweet, but philosophically, it is no more tenable than a cock and bull story. Of course, cock and bull stories are very entertaining. They serve to keep us amused. Nobody stops you from imagining a fatherly God sitting on a throne who will give you manna when you ask for it. You can always rejoice when you get it. If you don't get it, it must be because you are a bad person, since God cannot be bad. It is only because of your demerit that you don't get it. All these are only tall tales, but people are afraid to call them stories because then religious people would lose all their patronage and the churches wouldn't get any money. So teachers, swamis, gurus, priests, everybody has to pretend to so many games. Come out with the truth. Tear down all these stories. Then not only does the wave disappear, but the ocean also. We live in a world of make-believe. But does that mean that make-believe is not life? No, no, no. It's all life. Make-believe is life. This is all quite confusing, but confusion is very good for giving us a sense of the enormity of the absolute possibility in which you and I are caught. Narayana Guru says, Hanta, alas, alas, where is the cessation of all this? It is not just one body arising and subsiding. There is an infinite body of knowledge coming endlessly, clusters of ideas coming. Once you understand the Guru's perspective, a great freedom is bestowed on you. There are no longer any boundaries. Infinite are the possibilities of change. You are no more bound to create a functional program and then act it out. The big function, the great karma, is still going on endlessly, and you and I are part of it. Nothing else needs to be made to happen. This is just like being put into a melting pot, where all our fixed notions are burnt away, all our identifications are knocked off. We are at once the Absolute and our own particular self. After all, this personal self only has its identity until its bubble bursts. We are really very funny people. We not only become enraptured with our bubble, but when it bursts, we make a graveyard for it. We put up a big impressive stone with a name on it saying, "This bubble was born on such and died on so and so." It was really a very impressive bubble. All it does is perpetuate the memory of a bubble. And where is it perpetuated? On the next bubble in line. When he speaks of bodies endlessly arising in this verse, Narayana Guru is referring to ideas as well as material objects. We make a common mistake in thinking that an idea can never be gross. But as soon as it becomes a body, it is gross. We have an idea of the gross, and the grossness is an idea. In fact, both are wrong. Certain ideas are in the mind. Certain ideas are touchable. Certain ideas won't move. If you can place them all together, it is called sanghata, an aggregate. There are so many aggregates, forms, names, qualities, relationships, sensations. What you call a gestalt is only one aggregate of a living situation. If you can put all the possibilities of our experience into all the aggregates together, you have the Sambit. Out of this ocean of possibilities, all experiences emerge like waves. To deny the wave and the ocean together, if you can, is wisdom. But if you then sit on what you have rejected, saying, "I have realized, this is my realization," you have only made a new slab of ignorance called my realization. I don't know if I am making sense to you. The very moment you realize that this is truth, you have falsified the whole thing. So where is the grace and where is the joy of the Absolute? It is all this. Don't be afraid. It's all still here. Just suppose there is a possibility of your waking up and, for a split second, being aware of the state of deep sleep. Do you cry out because at that time you have lost your body, you've lost your children, your parents, your possessions, everything? If you wake up only to know that much, that you are in the deep sleep state, which is a state of nothingness, have you thereby lost the possibility of picking up your child the next day and kissing it? No, it's all still there. It's just not in the deep sleep state. It's in another phase of your life, the wakeful. So there is nothing to be afraid of. This is just one of the many facets of the aggregate of which we are speaking. To my mind, the ice cream-like grace for which you crave is only one tiny little drop of the whole truth. The greatest grace is to have an insight into this great truth from inside, to know it as the wave, the ocean, the particle, the movement, the stillness, the ocean evaporating into the air, clouds forming, rain falling back onto the earth, forming rivulets, joining with other tributaries to form a stream, the big river flowing, the waterfall cascading back to the ocean, the pure water merging with the saline of the ocean, losing identity. What is this urgency about keeping yourself so pure, as if in a separate container? Doing this imprisons part of beingness within what you call your identity. It's just like some childish people in India who go to the Ganges with a small bottle and fill it with water. They make it airtight, carry it home, and keep it for 100, 200 years even. And what is the magic of this Ganga water? The Ganges' glory is because it flows from the Mandakini river, out of the highest peaks of the glorious Himalayas, down through thousands of miles of the world, nourishing and enriching everyone, only to pour back into the ocean, where it evaporates and returns to the mountains as snow. It is that endless cycle, the enormity of it, that makes the Ganges what it is. When part of it is put in a small bottle on a shelf somewhere, it no longer participates in the cycle of renewal. It is a pathetic mockery of its source. Like that, you are breaking up the real grace and throwing it away into meaninglessness when you lift yourself out of the hole. I am not taking grace away from you. I am asking you to trade in your childish grace for the real grace. You attain a greater freedom when you give up your small freedoms. So intriguing is this verse. Ponder over it. And the free translation of verse number 56 is as follows. In the ocean of consciousness, modulations arise one after another, causing the experience of perceiving embodied objects. Alas, where is the end to this? In the sea of Sambit, latent action is always ready to actualize.